All right, welcome to Newsroom Live on this November 11th. It is 7:02 p.m. for the next 2 hours minus 2 minutes. We're going to talk about things that are happening today. You're looking right now at some landscapes here in Manhattan live. It is, well, it's a clear night for the most part. We've got that working for us. But today, if you blinked, you missed it. We're going to talk with Nick Gregory in a bit about today's weather, tonight's weather, the weather going forward for the week ahead. But let's show you something this morning, and you know what it is if you were awake during those hours. But in case you weren't, we're going to play some video from earlier this morning. This was during the morning commute, and yes, that is snow, and yes, that is the first snow that we are seeing this winter holiday season. And look at that. Some people were prepared. Some people, yeah, they look prepared. Some people were not. And from what Nick Gregory is going to tell us, if you don't already have your winter gear out, dig that box out, because from here on in, it gets a little bit warmer, but it doesn't get warm. Maybe it takes a little bit of an adjustment and gets us back to the temperatures closer to what's seasonal for this time of year, but we'll still be below that. So it will still be cold, just not as cold as it was last night and not as cold as it was today. We are going to talk about the government shutdown, but before we talk about that, today is Veterans Day, and thanks to our Becky Cook, our awesome assistant news director, for the mug. We're going to talk about camo as our camo cause, but let's first show you some of the sights during this Veterans Day here in New York. Many say that the parade that we have in New York for Veterans Day is the largest parade in the country on this day, honoring not just those who have served in the past, but those who continue serving this country. Every branch of military was represented in today's parade. That's the NYPD, not technically supposed to be a military, but there to support the festivities on this important day. Now, there were about 20,000 marchers in this, dozens of floats, and a lot of what you see right now, lots and lots of marching bands. If marching bands were your thing, well, today Fifth Avenue was the place to be. The parade marched north from 23rd or 25th Street all the way up to 45th Street. And it ran for several hours, starting at around 12:30 this afternoon. Now, if you missed, Fox 5 live streamed it, and it wrapped up about mid or late afternoon. We talked to a lot of people who participated in it today, just to understand why perhaps this is not the most well-attended parade in terms of people who line the sides, but those who were out today certainly had a very strong sense of conviction for why they were out there on this cold day, and why they wanted these veterans to see that they are supported even from the sidelines. Let's play for you our report tonight from our Haley Fixler.
It's the 106th year of this Veterans Day Parade here in New York. It's also the 250th year of the nation's military, a very special day.
With song, drums, and cheers, the red carpet rolled out for our hometown heroes on Veterans Day. 20,000 participants marched up Fifth Avenue, celebrating those who served, braving the cold and the wind in what many are calling their own duty.
We need to honor our veterans and pay respect to them. They've sacrificed so much for us. So we'll just stand here all day.
We want to thank all the veterans, all those that have, sacrificed themselves all through all these years and today.
For some, the nation's largest Veterans Day parade is personal.
My grandpa was in the military, and I came to see him along with everyone else who works for our country.
For others, it's simply a way of showing their appreciation.
Our Veterans Day protects our country, and we really value that.
I'm here to thank our veterans for our freedom. There's no place I'd rather be. My flag, and my bell.
And that thanks means a lot to the veterans at this parade.
You can see that, they wave. They don't just stand there. They wave to you and they smile. It's a good feeling.
Each band, military unit, and group in the parade are a tribute to them and everyone who has served.
It's comradeship. It's guys that have been through what you've been through.
But before the celebration comes remembrance. The parade began with a solemn wreath-laying ceremony honoring the men and the women who made the ultimate sacrifice. In Flatiron, Haley Fixler, Fox 5 News.
All right, now we want to get to some of our other top stories. Veterans Day, we wanted to talk about off the top, but obviously the government shutdown as it continues is something that is on the forefront of the news and people's minds and impacting their lives as well. Just tonight, the Supreme Court issuing a decision that extends the order blocking full SNAP payments, which shows that, well, okay, we have the faces of the Democrats, the 8 Democrats who have voted with Republicans to help end the shutdown. Now, important to note that, let's show you some of what's happening in D.C. tonight. Where this stands right now is that the stalemate, the bill ending the stalemate has passed the Senate, which now goes to the House of Representatives. They've been called to D.C. Some are having difficulties getting there, but nonetheless, Democratic members of the House of Representatives, many of them tonight voicing their dismay that the 8 Democrats in the Senate essentially, in their words, caved in and capitulated to the Republicans, getting nothing in return. If you remember, the government shutdown began because Democratic leaders said that the healthcare premiums of Americans and millions of Americans who rely on the Affordable Care Act, the subsidies for it were about to expire, which meant that their premiums would more than double. And last night, Linda Schmidt, who's going to join us shortly, she's working on this story for tonight, pointed out in one metric, a family paying about $350 a year for their premium, we're about to see it get to $1,500. Well, the Democrats did not secure anything but a promise or an assurance that in the Senate that they will vote on it next month. That is far from what many Democratic leaders envisioned as a proper outcome for going through the pain of a government shutdown. Let's listen into one of the feeds coming to us from D.C. right now and see what's being said there.
As to what created the Affordable Care Act and how did we get here as a result of what happened during COVID? Would you mind doing that? President Trump was not in office in either of those cases. Is that correct?
That too is correct, Madam Chair. I'm trying to limit how much time I use, how outrageous some of the statements I've heard are. The reality is, goes back to a fundamental defect in Obamacare itself, which is constantly driven. The Affordable Care Act has made health care unaffordable. It's been doing it for 15 years. The basic subsidies are in law. Our friends on the other side during COVID decided we've got a crisis underway. We're going to add a subsidy on top of a subsidy.
The subsidy to what was called the Affordable Care Act, which was never affordable because we taxpayers who pay for our own insurance were subsidizing, correct?
That is absolutely correct. So again, it's a subsidy on top of a subsidy. Our friends added it during COVID. COVID is over. They set a date certain that the subsidies would run out. They chose the date.
And the date certain was?
December 31st of this year. So they chose that date. By the way, they did it without any Republican votes, without any consideration of reforms, without any effort to hold down the price. I mean, they literally are the big insurance companies' best friends. They funneled hundreds of billions of dollars into these things. But again, this is their legislation. They wrote it. They extended it. They added a subsidy to it. And they set the date at which that subsidy was to run out. President Trump certainly wasn't president when either the original legislation was created or this additional subsidy was added. So to blame it on him instead of looking in the mirror and blaming it on yourself is the height of hypocrisy. Yeah, this is a Democratic manufactured crisis that they're blaming on everybody but themselves. And at the same time, well, as they're doing that, they've decided, well, I guess we don't need to pay our men and women in uniform that are defending us. Thank God President Trump twice has pulled rabbits out of a hat and made sure that didn't happen. Or we're not going to pay our air traffic controllers, or our meat inspectors, or our Capitol Police that they celebrate so constantly and rightfully. I mean, come on. This is a totally manufactured crisis by Democrats. They've kept the government shut down. Finally, in the United States Senate, 8 pretty courageous people said, I'm not going to be part of this charade anymore. I'm going to vote to open the government. We can negotiate on these other issues. Majority Leader Thune, our own speaker, made it clear we're willing to do it. We're not going to, by the way, sign off on something that has been an utter disaster. And what the Democrats basically have asked for here is like $1.5 trillion over 10 years in exchange for a 4 or 7.
All right, you hear some of the proceedings going on in D.C., different views about whether or not this government shutdown should end, but probably no disagreement that it ends without the main piece that Democrats had sought, which was an extension of the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act, which does mean that as of January 1st, the premiums for tens of millions of Americans who rely on that for their health insurance is going to at least double, in some cases triple or more. The vote will take place, we think, perhaps tomorrow in D.C. We're going to talk to Linda Schmidt about that later. But what's clear is that some of the problems that have rippled out because of this, whether it's the interruption to SNAP benefits or the problems at our airports, will not be solved with a magic wand. It will take time for that to be fixed. But right now, we also want to turn our attention to another story that deserves to stay in our headlines. We've been reporting it here, including this past weekend, fundraising efforts after Hurricane Melissa ravaged the island of Jamaica. It was so devastating, in fact, that the death toll there continues to climb. Right now, it has been raised to 45 people dead, and at least a dozen people are still missing. And if I have it right, somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 billion of damage. A lot of people trying to help in their own way. Amongst those is someone who is very well known for her work at Hot 97. At Hot 93.7 rather in Hartford. She's a major Jamaican radio personality and TV personality. I guess we can say radio and media personality. We're very thankful to have Nikki Z right now, who joins us. Thank you for being with us, Nikki. Can you first tell us where you are, and let's start getting into how things look to you down there.
Right now, currently, I'm located in Whitehall, Westmoreland. So it's really in the center of a lot of what's happening.
And what are the conditions there? That's one of the worst hit areas. What are the logistics like for you there, both just to get around, or you're out there for a long period of time? Like, where do you stay? Where do you live? Where do you get your water? Where do you get your food?
Okay, well, luckily for me, I was blessed to have friends like a very popular reggae artist by the name of Warrior King. He and his wife, Leslie, they had space in their home that wasn't damaged. Their roof was damaged. A lot of their home was damaged, but they had space. So I'll be here. There's no electricity right now. Everybody is in the dark, and they're projecting that won't change until March. I know a lot of people have been doing relief efforts. A lot of food has been coming in, but we have not really seen any government here. And that's not to place blame. It's just to say we have not seen them, and we hope to see them very soon. But we have seen companies like Digicel come through. A lot of influencers, a lot of celebrities have come through, and a lot of the public sector and entertainment sector. They've been really doing what they can. But really and truly, if you go a little bit up the hill, there are people that barely have been reached yet, because as people try to get to them, there's so many in between that these are people that we need helicopters. We need drop points. We need for them to get the resources they need, because a lot of people are talking about the danger and people are on the streets asking. This is going to happen if we have 12 days and people haven't gotten proper resources. They haven't been able to get in contact with their family. So it's very dangerous. You know, I brought items like a life straw that brings 1,000 gallons of water one person can drink. Starlinks, people are trying to bring those in, but we need as much help as possible.
And we're showing some of that video now. I did not know what you just said, that that parts of Jamaica, including where you are, might not get electricity until March of next year. I mean, I know that Jamaica, more than some other Caribbean nations, had been wisely investing in solar power, but how are people going to get by? Is there going to be, will there be an exodus there? Because many people feel like if there's no electricity, that's really not livable conditions that they're in.
I fully agree. And once again, I don't want to place blame. I don't know what's going on in the government offices, but I know people have spoken of a lot of red tape just trying to be able to get the solar panels in. So that's been a problem. I've heard people say that to get generators just for now, there's a lot of red tape, and it's not that they're giving you generators. They're either loaning or renting generators. And this is what people are hearing. I do not know the validity. I'm asking the government to reach out to us and make these corrections because people have a lot of confusion. There are funds for people who are homeowners, but once again, the red tape, they don't have Wi-Fi to connect to be able to do everything that they're being asked to do to get the funds that they need. People need shelter. You don't have to build a full home right now. That's why my initiative in particular, we're looking just to build shelter for now, you know, and then if anybody wants to adopt a family going forth, they can do that. But shelter is important. I just have a father 200 feet away from me right now that I met with his wife. They have 5 kids. 4 daughters, 1 baby who was born days before the storm. This is a newborn baby and a mom who just gave birth. They do not have a home. They're living in a 2-seater truck. So right now we just got the materials. We're going to get that to him to build a structure on to the next. Once his structure is built, he's going to help me build other structures, and we're going to work our way up. I mean, I'm one person, but we need plywood. We need something called lart. I'm learning. We need something called lart, which is another type of wood. We need zinc. We need these things. You can buy it on the ground and have it sent to us through companies like Hardware and Lumber and other companies in Jamaica that have online. And I know you're trying to ship, but shipping companies are backed up until January. So this is really serious. It's really hot and it's still raining, and we have elderly out in the open exposed. We have babies exposed. We have mothers who don't have help that are exposed. They feminine items, they're exposed. We need immediate help in this area, in Black River and everywhere surrounding, especially going up into the hills. We need copters. We need helicopters. We need help.
What's the best way for people to help? Because as you pointed out, the normal lines of shipping, maybe not the best right now. How do people keep track of what you're doing, and what are the best ways to help? Over the weekend, we reported that the artist, musician Shaggy, he had a friend in Florida who had a plane, so they were able to get stuff in. We also reported this weekend the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater had a fundraiser, and at least two members of the company, if I understand it correctly, are actually Jamaican, so they have their ways of trying to get in. But how can people support both what you're doing and know that they're going down the avenue that gets the help there most as directly as possible? If that's a fair question.
Yeah. Big up to everybody that is boots on the ground. Even Tyrese and I think Mona Scott just flew in. My top picks right now where people can donate to, because I know for a fact that they're going to do everything to rebuild Jamaica, would be Food for the Poor. Sean Paul is endorsing that. And then there's also a charity that Shaggy is doing. And Shaggy is always hands-on with Jamaica. And you know you can trust in him. Me in particular, I'm working on my adoptive family. So if you don't have a lot of money, you're not a big donor, but you want to make sure a family's okay, I got you on that. I'll be on the ground as long as I can. I'm also a military vet, so big up to all my veterans. Once military, always military. So this is what we do. We are on the ground. Shout out to every artist who's on the ground and everybody around the world who's been helping. Just keep following. We'll keep telling you the stories. We'll keep showing you what's needed. This is not a beggar company. This is not a beggar country. This is not a beggar parish. This is a parish of farmers. This is a parish of people that know how to work hard. They need seeds. They need to rebuild their chicken coops, their goat pens. They're ready to work. Just shelter, and let's get them on the ground they need to be. Please.
Yeah, very clear. It's not a beggar country, and that the help is genuinely needed. Nikki, thank you so much for not just being able to speak with you, but for everything that you're doing there, and we'll do our best to try to amplify that. I really appreciate your time, and good luck down there, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, and bless everybody around the world. I know everyone is suffering, but just hold tight. There's always sun after the clouds, so just wait for this storm to pass, not just Hurricane Melissa, but even what's in the USA. My heart is with you as well, so big up to you, love the work you guys are doing. Much love to Ryan Christopher, always and always, and keep in touch.
Absolutely will. Thank you so much. We're going to take a break here, and we're going to come back with Linda Schmidt, and we're going to talk about the government shutdown, what's going on tonight. All right, we're back here now with Linda Schmidt, tirelessly covering this government shutdown. Yeah. It looks like it is headed towards a resolution, but it's not that simple, right? There's still another vote in the House that needs to happen, and even when it does pass, these things that we've been talking about, whether it's SNAP benefits or the airports.
That's right.
It's not a like.
It's not instantaneous.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, okay, the House signs it, which they're supposed to sign it tomorrow. But again, we're going to have to wait and see if all of the House members actually make it back from their different districts, because of course they're flying into D.C. and the House Speaker told them last night, start making your way back, because he knew it might take a few days, because these folks are going to get caught up in some of the flight delays, just like millions of Americans have been caught up in, for the past few weeks. So hopefully they all make it back to D.C. by tomorrow, and the House can then vote on it. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, then they'll vote on it Thursday or Friday, but hopefully sometime this week. And then after that, it goes to the president, he signs it. But in order to get things back up and running, all of these different agencies, in addition to what's going on at the airports, that could take days. Because it's not just like, okay, we sign it, the president signs off on it, and boom, everything's back to normal. It takes days to get ramped back up, not just at the airports, but in funding SNAP benefits. That will not be instantaneous either.
Right. And the Supreme Court tonight seemingly not wanting to make a decision.
Right.
So they're saying, all right, we're fine with SNAP not being funded, just like hoping that this vote will take place and that fixes itself.
Right. That's what the justices are hoping. They don't want to put their nose into it just yet. They're just going to let this political process play out, and hopefully it works out. Now, who knows? If it doesn't work out and this thing stretches into next week, then maybe they might intervene at that point. But for right now, the Supreme Court is not intervening.
Right.
But I have to tell you, I just got off the phone with a lady, and you're going to see this interview tonight on the 10 o'clock news, and you'll see it right here on the Fox Local app as well. But she is a SNAP recipient. She lives in the Bronx. She has diabetes, and she has multiple other health issues. And she has been a SNAP recipient for quite some time. And she said, you know, not having food security is something that really tears at your core. It tears at your soul. And if you have children, then you're constantly worried as a parent, how am I going to feed my kids? I can't afford to buy food. I need the SNAP benefits so that I can feed my family. And she was telling me a story about when she had lived in Florida, and she was living out of her car for 6 months. She didn't have food security. She didn't know from day to day where she was going to be getting her food from. And she's in the Bronx. She's been here for a few years now, and she's able to get those benefits. The great thing about New York is that Governor Hochul announced quite some time ago that since the feds were not funding it, that New York State would fund the SNAP benefits for every recipient here in New York State. So they started to receive those SNAP benefits. That is not the case in other states.
Right, and President Trump was against that. He had told states to undo, when states were announcing that they were going to do it over the weekend, he said, don't do it, undo it, which is not, at the very least, we can say, very uncomfortable situation for people who are relying on that money to pay for food, right?
That's right. But here in New York, Governor Hochul said, no, too bad, I'm going to do this, and she implemented that, and now they are receiving their SNAP benefits. Now, once the deal is signed, and the government shutdown is over, then at some point the feds would then take over again and start funding the SNAP benefits instead of the state.
Right, but what would happen to restore New York's money, the money that New York spent to send those out, right? Is also one of the questions that will come up, because out of vindictiveness, the feds could say, well, we told you not to send that out.
That's right. And then, like, if we can shift for a moment to what's going on at the airports. Now, if you remember, the FAA said if the shutdown continued on Friday, they reduced flights at the 40 busiest
10%.
airports. No, Friday was 4%.
Right, but by this Friday.
Today, it's 6%. It's supposed to go up to 8% on Thursday and then 10% on Friday. So if that happens, anybody who's been doing any traveling in the past, say, 3 weeks, if you think it was bad then, wait. Because it could get a lot worse by the end of the week this week. Hopefully that does not happen, and hopefully the deal gets signed.
And there's a general acceptance that if the government shutdown ends and when it ends, that it's going to be a while. And some air traffic controllers, as we talked about last night, they might quit. They might have, some have already are not showing up for work, but there isn't a full expectation that every one of them is going to return afterwards. They might not want to deal with this, because even this deal that's made is through January 31st, right? That's not really considered steady employment if you think you're going to deal with this in another 2 months' time.
It's just to the end of January, and then after that, prior to that, Congress has to start working on yet another spending bill. So we could be right back here in the month of January at some point, and they could be arguing about a lot of these same issues. Now, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, he has been against the shutdown from the very beginning. He's a Democrat. He's been against it from the very beginning. Of course, he wants those Obamacare subsidies to be extended, and that was a demand by the Democrats, and the Republicans were saying, no, we're not going to discuss that issue right now. We're going to discuss that separately from the spending plan, and then that's why the Democrats shut down the government. So he was against it from day one. He was one of the 8 that went over to the Republican side. But every single time they held a vote, he voted with the Republican. But he was one of the 8 from last night that allowed it to finally get passed in the Senate. So you're about to hear from him in just 1 second here. But also, veterans. Today's Veterans Day. And there are millions of veterans who need food security. And you're about to hear from a CEO of an organization talking about that and how this shutdown has impacted them. So, Brian, can we go ahead and roll that sound? Yeah, there we go. Right there we are. Yep.
We think about 1.2 million veterans that have food insecurity issues across our country. and with a SNAP program being halted, that added to the misery that veterans have.
Millions and millions of Americans now will have their lives brought back to normal.
You know, and Fetterman right there saying, hopefully life will start to get back to normal for Americans.
Can that really be said, though? As we just pointed out, this is good through January 31st.
Right.
Like, and the problem did not appear to be fixed, other than what we talked about last night, the definite maybe thing. We'll definitely maybe vote on it, and just the Senate. And so Fetterman is amongst those that are getting a lot of attention, including that of Hakeem Jeffries, but so is Senator Charles Schumer, the senior senator from New York, right? A lot of people are saying, hey, you were running the ship, and what happened?
What happened? Because they ended up agreeing, the deal that they agreed to last night was basically the same deal that the Republicans had presented to them before the shutdown even started. But the Democrats, being led by Schumer, they were hoping to put all this pressure on the Republicans, and thinking that the Republicans would end up taking the heat for the shutdown and not the Democrats. But as the days went on and the weeks went on, there was more anger directed at the Democrats than there was towards the Republicans.
Right. We can talk about, too, how AOC, many people have been saying that she might or are encouraging her to run for Schumer's seat.
That's right, challenging him.
So this is survival time in many ways.
That's
but it's a bad luck, it would appear. Do you have Hakeem Jeffries? Because he just spoke
We
a
do
short
have
time ago.
Hakeem Jeffries. He, is the House Minority Leader. He's here from New York, and he did have a news conference. I think it happened maybe around 6 o'clock tonight. Let's go ahead, take a listen to that.
House Democrats are going to offer an amendment before the Rules Committee to get that self-dealing sick provision out of the spending agreement. The notion that 8 Republican senators signed off by John Thune and the Republicans, apparently in the Senate and in the House, would give themselves the ability, essentially, to rip millions of taxpayer dollars away from the American people so they could line their pockets because these people were insurrectionist sympathizers is insanity. And we're going to tattoo that provision, just like we're going to tattoo the Republican health care crisis on the foreheads of every single House Republican who dares vote for this bill. Manu?
There have been a number of members of your own caucus who have called on Senator Schumer to be replaced as Democratic leader. Are you okay with those calls coming from within your own caucus?
As I've indicated, we're focused right now on pressing the case in addressing the Republican health care crisis. We'll be before the Rules Committee in moments. We'll have a family conversation as House Democrats. We're strongly opposed as House Democrats to this reckless Republican effort to continue to raise the high cost of living on everyday Americans, which is exactly what they're doing by failing to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Nicole? I will have that conversation during our caucus meeting at noon, but our strong expectation is that Democrats will be strongly opposed. Many have issued statements. The New Dem coalition came out today, that's the largest caucus within the House Democratic Caucus, opposed to this Republican spending bill because it fails to address the health care crisis that Republicans have created.
Fails to address the health care crisis that Republicans created. Interesting that what you chose there included somebody asking a question about Senator Charles Schumer and whether or not he should be replaced as a leader. We know that they work together. He did dance around it. I mean, we know that they have to have a relationship to work together.
Right.
And but he did not immediately, and maybe we're reading into it too much, but there's the divisions within the Democratic Party right now are so strong that he was just like, let's just focus on the fact that the Republicans have let us down on this crucial healthcare issue.
Right.
And important to point out, while everybody else is going through this trouble, the Republican, all Congress people were still getting paid. Their health insurance was still solid.
That's right.
There was still
they have not suffered.
Parties. They were still right. They have not suffered.
They may suffer at the polls for the next election, but they are not really suffering financially during the shutdown. And his reaction there, not full-throated support of Chuck Schumer either. And like you and I are talking about, you know, there's strong suspicion that AOC is going to challenge him for his Senate seat, but there are many critics of AOC saying, how can she even think about challenging him? Because as a Congress member, she's rarely even in her district since she's been in office. It's very difficult to reach her. It's not like she's here and she's constantly holding town halls and meeting with her constituents in the same way that Charles Schumer does. And so she's been criticized a lot about that she's rarely here in her district. And there are a lot of people who ask, what have you done? What have you done for your constituents
that's
since
a good
you've
story
been in
for us to go on
office?
into, right? We should, and I think we have before gone to her district and asked people. I mean, the same thing that we did when Mamdani was running for mayor.
Right.
We went and asked people in Astoria and his district, you know, how's he done for you, right? And it might be a good time to ask that. But also we're pointing out that she has been reelected every time by her constituents. So we may have a perception of it, but when the voters have been given an opportunity to speak, they
do put him back in office. But the other side of that coin too, there, Arthur, is that Americans are apathetic about getting out and voting. So a lot of times when these Congress members and whether it's the House or the Senate, they do get reelected. They get reelected with a very small percentage of votes in their district because so many people don't even go out and vote.
Now, are you alluding to the Kurt Menefee Mayor Adams interview?
Well,
you're going to have to watch it.
I did watch it.
It went viral. Well, the first thing that Adams said was he came out and said that he cited how 2 million registered voters did not vote.
Nearly 3 million did not vote. It's nearly 3 million.
But the turnout was nearly, my pushback would have been the turnout was nearly double that of the election that put Mayor Adams into City Hall. So if you're saying that the results of this election were invalid because of turnout, then he was elected on even shakier ground. Right?
I agree with you. It was a record turnout since 1969. So it was just over, I think, just over 2 million.
Right.
But then there were almost 3 million who didn't get out and vote. And that's something that really needs to be talked about, too, is that Americans, when it comes time to vote, go out and vote because it's the only voice that you really have if you're unhappy with something.
Right. Well, we'll let Kurt take care of it in his next interview with Mayor Adams. Go for it, Kurt Menefee. Thank you so much, Linda. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and we're going to come back with Nick Gregory and talk about everything from snow to... I
can't even believe snow.
I know.
When I looked out my windows and I saw the big snowflakes, I was like, oh my God, it's so pretty, but
it's a little early. It's a little early, but hey, we may as well start getting used to it now. It's coming. So, all right, let's take this break. Thanks so much, Linda.
All right, no problem. Always a pleasure.
Welcome back to Newsroom Live on this November 11th. This is Tuesday, it's 7:41 p.m. And that sight was from this morning. And if you notice something going around, that ain't dandruff. We saw our first snow of this season. And look at that. Actually, that's not even a sprinkle. I think that would be, well, I guess technically the word is a squall. To go over the definitions, we have our Nick Gregory, our amazing meteorologist with us. What is a squall? I feel like it's a bird that I can...
Yeah, no, it's a squall or a snow shower. Snow showers can be part of a squall, which would be sort of a line of...
A line of
snow showers?
Yes. Okay, so but today was it technically a squall or?
It was both. It was a squall that brought in snow showers. So yes, you could call it that. But it was we were expecting it, right? Remember we talked about it yesterday, right? We talked about it yesterday. It just came in earlier than I thought.
Why? So it was it windier?
It just just the moisture. Remember those squalls came. This is the word squalls again.
Yeah, I like that.
That came all the way from the Great Lakes region, right? So of course they had the snow squalls in western New York State, and it traveled all the way down, and it just was able to hold together enough, traveling with the wind, to arrive here early in the morning. So it was interesting. I got up early and I was going to take my daughter to the train station, and I opened the garage door and I was like,
"Oh,
oh, it's snowing!" So I thought it was going to come in like late morning, midday, but it came in definitely earlier than that. But we had it off and on most of the day. Right? Mm-hmm. The good thing is that the ground is still very warm, so it really didn't stick. There were reports of up to about an inch in parts of North Jersey, up in Sussex County, Vernon, New Jersey had about an inch. Yeah, it had about an inch.
Sticking
on the colder
or
surfaces.
Just precipitation?
No, sticking on the grass. Again, colder surfaces, grass, cars, those types of things. It didn't stick to the streets.
Okay.
Because again, the ground is warm, and it's also falling in the daytime. Mm-hmm. So, this time of the year with the ground being warm, and when snow falls during the day, it's got to compete against the incoming solar radiation. Mm-hmm. So that hits the pavement, the blacktop melts the snow.
Right, well,
but if it
it's
comes
the right
down,
kind of squall,
right.
That's my kind of squall.
But when it does get colder, and that's when when the snow comes down heavily, then it overcomes that solar radiation, and that's when it can really start sticking to the streets. That kind.
We didn't have the heaviness of it today, but it was cold enough. Right?
It was cold. It was windy.
Cold
the wind gusts were up 40, 45 miles per hour. So. For sure.
And how much of do we call it a correction? How much do we bounce back from those cold temperatures? I know we're coming back a little bit, but not.
Yeah, it's still going to be below average. I mean, you can see again, our wind is still pretty strong out of the west here. That's the latest wind speed, 10 to 20 miles an hour. So we're in the core of the coldest air now, really from last night into about now. So like tonight, while it's going to be cold again, not quite as. This morning it was down in the low 20s in the suburbs and hit 33 in Midtown this morning. Tonight it'll be maybe 37 in Midtown and 28 in the colder suburbs, so up a couple of degrees. Tomorrow we'll try to get to 50. It's going to be close. We may not. May stop around 48 or 49 in the city.
Will the winds have
it's going to be. It won't be as strong of a wind as today, like we're seeing now, but it'll still be gusting 20, and then it's going to get quite windy again on Thursday after the next system moves through. So that's just going to reinforce the coolness of the air. We're not going to get like this cold blast. You see the dark blue color from Michigan and towards New England. That's that big push of cold air. You can see why I'm saying we're now in that core of that colder air.
V for vortex? Is it?
Yeah, well, you can say that. Polar vortex, yeah.
But it
I'm
like
going to steal that line, Arthur. I'm going to steal that line.
Anytime.
But now see how, watch the loop here. Go back to real quick, sorry. I want to show you how those snow squalls evolved. See how they come off the Great Lakes and then just move right back down towards us, right? So that gives you an idea of how they traveled all the way here this morning and this afternoon. So what was I saying? I was saying the temperatures of the next couple of days will be a little bit below average still. Won't be worse, again, we won't be in the core of the colder air that we're in now, but we should be around 55, 56 degrees. We will probably get there until Sunday.
Okay. So. But then on Sunday, does the 56, 59 get here?
Yeah, it does.
Before the rain does?
About the same time.
That's no fun.
Yeah, about the same time. And then after that passes, it turns a little colder again early next week.
Right. So what do you, I always ask you this, if you had to do stuff outdoors, run errands, whatever, which day would you pick?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, you can do them tomorrow and Thursday just to have to deal with the wind. And again, tomorrow close to 50, Thursday 52. Friday, same deal.
Okay.
But the wind, probably out of the next 5 days, the less wind will be on Saturday. So that'll be the quieter day. This is great, right, this morning?
That's so cool.
Yep.
And are there still nests? I remember there were some pretty special birds that were nesting on top of the George Washington Bridge. We did a story on it with the Port Authority, and hopefully they got to enjoy the snow today too. I think if I remember, they're pretty big birds, so they're probably pretty used to
the cold and the snow when it gets this time of the year.
Yeah,
better than we do probably.
I think so. I think so. We're pretty fragile, Nick.
We can be.
Well, I'll let you get ready for the 10 o'clock. Thanks so much
pleasure.
for doing this. And
Always.
Let's take a 2-minute break. We'll come back. We'll continue on.
See you later.
All right, welcome back to Newsroom Live. It's 7:48 p.m. on this November 11th, on this Tuesday. And we start off by talking about this right now, making camo our cause here at Fox 5 in support of the Honor U.S. Vets campaign. There is an issue in our society that should not be one, and that is returning veterans having to deal with homelessness. And in order to support their dignity and their independence and the groups that support them, we've started this Make Camo Your Cause effort. Now, you can help by making a donation, picking up your own Fox camo gear. And today, if you are wearing it, that's another way to support it. If you have your own, wear that. And when you do post it onto your socials, remember to hashtag Honor U.S. Vets so that we can see it. Now, that barcode on the bottom in the center of your screen is a good way to learn more about, to donate, and to get involved in any sort of way and help us end veteran homelessness. And you can also go to .fox/USVets, which is go.fox/USVets. I have other things, amongst other things, I have mine, courtesy of our amazing Assistant News Director, Becky Cook. And getting back to the order of the business during these times on Newsroom Live, where we get to talk to you about stories that otherwise move very quickly. It might get squeezed out of headlines. One of the things we do want to talk about, we've been talking a lot about politics in New York City, how we're getting a new mayor here in New York City. But obviously there was a very big gubernatorial race in the state of New Jersey, and it was won by Mikey Sherrill, and she beat Republican Jack Ciattarelli in what was supposed to be a too close to call race, but she won decisively in what's being described as a landslide victory. It was called very early on. Well, she was on Good Day New York this morning. Our Kurt and Rosanna got to speak with her. His first question was whether or not she was catching up with sleep. We want to run that interview for you.
Democrat Mikey Sherrill won the election for New Jersey governor in a landslide victory against Republican Jack Ciattarelli.
The former Navy pilot and prosecutor made history on Election Day as the first Democratic female governor of the Garden State. She joins us right now. Thank you very much for joining us, Governor-elect. Congratulations on winning the election. What have you done since the Election Day besides sleeping?
I would have liked to do a little more sleeping, but we hit the ground running. So right after the election, I was down meeting with the current governor about transition. I've met with the Senate majority leaders, the Assembly majority leaders, and the Senate minority or the Assembly minority leader. So meeting with legislative leaders, and I'll continue to do that as we are building out the kind of first 100-day agenda.
Okay, you've been a politician for a while, so you've got the experience in government. But is there anything that here in this first week since the election that's kind of caught you by maybe surprise that you didn't expect you'd have to deal with this early?
No, I think that the nice part, I guess, about running the type of campaign I did, so it was a really intense campaign. We had a 6-way primary and then hit the ground running for just a really intense general election, all through the general election, is that you address everything going on in the state. I've been to multiple forums with all different parts of the state, multiple roundtables and grassroots groups, and then labor unions and industry leaders and chambers of commerce. So really hearing from just about everyone I could in the state and understanding the issues deeply. So after a year of doing that, it does feel, there's a lot of challenges, but it does feel as if I have a really good grounding in what's going on in the state right now.
All right, Congresswoman, Governor-elect, wondering if you're going down to D.C. to vote on the government shutdown and which way you're going to vote.
So I anticipate I'll be going down tomorrow, and I'm voting against the current deal because I really want to see support for health care. That's what the fight has been. That's what the mandate I have is to do from the people of New Jersey, is to continue that fight to lower costs.
Do you think that legislators would think differently about voting no if their paycheck was held for 40-something days?
So many of us aren't receiving our paycheck. We have refused it. I was actually just hearing from one woman who she's refused her paycheck in Congress. Her husband's a federal worker, so he doesn't have a paycheck. They've taken out loans to make ends meet right now, which, as you know, and this is something I know from being a federal worker and having all of the briefings as well, you know, the one thing people don't quite understand about this is when federal workers don't receive a paycheck, if they have to go get loans, they are available, but a lot of the costs associated with getting those loans are never reimbursed. So it is always a horrible cost to our federal workers.
Are you also giving back your paycheck?
Yes, I haven't been accepting my paycheck.
Okay,
I've written to not accept it.
I want to ask you one more question about the shutdown before we get back to New Jersey. Is that you said earlier that if the Senate passes this deal, which they did, that does not include health care, it will be malpractice. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I will tell you that you know, we ran this election. We saw across the nation that voters were really up for the fight, to fight for health care, to fight for better funding. And it's not just me saying it. I mean, that was largely what President Trump himself had suggested. And I think he was willing to discuss and negotiate on this very issue to come up with a way to make sure we're defraying costs. But unfortunately, you know, I think Senate Democrats, a very few of them, made a different decision. And I think it was a really bad decision.
Well, we appreciate you coming on Good Day New York, and we wish you well. Just another month or so before you're sworn in, so congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it and hope to see you soon.
Real quick, you're a veteran. Any message for your fellow veterans on this Veterans Day?
Yeah, you know, it's a cliche almost, but thank you for your service. And I say that because I know how many, you know, holidays away from families, how much hard work, how much goes into serving this country. And so I really do appreciate all those. And I'll also just say so many of our veterans, it doesn't end with their service in the military. They continue to serve our communities, and I really appreciate them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill.
Democrat Mikey Sherrill.
We wanted to make sure we acknowledge New Jersey politics, as a lot's been said about New York, and we're going to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about something that, because of the results of the New York mayoral race, a lot of people said that in some big statements, they said 1 million New Yorkers were preparing to leave if Zohran Mamdani was elected. Well, our Sharon Crowley today started looking into the subject, and we have an interview that she conducted on the subject today. So we'll take a break here. When we come back, we're going to hear from Sharon Crowley's interview about whether or not New Yorkers are leaving and if a lot of empty apartments are about to hit the market. All right, welcome back to Newsroom Live on this Tuesday, November 11th. It is approaching 8 o'clock as we speak, and we are shortly going to speak with our Teresa Priolo. She has been diligently looking into the story today regarding a baby formula and how there might be a health hazard attached to it. She spoke with an infectious disease physician today, and let's just play a little bit of that interview right now.
Clostridium botulism, but it's the botulinum toxin that the children under the age of 1 in particular are very, very
Can we do the B-roll right out of that before I introduce Teresa?
The name of the bacteria is called Clostridium botulism, but it's the botulinum toxin that the children under the age of 1 in particular are very, very sensitive and particularly sensitive to. The reason being is that their gut, their intestinal lining is not mature. So they ingest something called spores. Spores are the inactivated form of this bacteria, and these spores go into the gut and they germinate.
Okay, what's happening in this country right now is there's an infant botulism outbreak, and baby formula, or this particular brand, BioHeart, is recalling this evening its products, which are sold nationwide. This recall comes days after some batches were recalled in an expanding outbreak, in the event of an expanding outbreak of infant botulism. Now, at least 15 babies in 12 states appear to have been sickened. There's a case locally, if we're going to talk about them, one on Long Island, possibly one on Long Island, possibly one in New Jersey. But so that we can stop saying possibly, let's bring in Teresa Priolo, who's been following this. Good evening, Teresa. What can you tell us about this connection between this baby formula and botulism?
Hey, Arthur. So, you and I are both parents, and I know that your daughter is a little bit older, but I am obviously a new mom, third time over. And so When you think back, I don't have to think very far, to those first couple of days and weeks of having a baby. Many women try to breastfeed, some it doesn't work, and they turn to formula. And finding the right formula for your kid is often so difficult. So when parents find a formula that works, there's such a sigh of relief. This recall has brought up for a lot of moms, a lot of families, a lot of women, that renewed sense of anxiety. What are you going to feed your kid? If you cannot give them breast milk and the formula that you have given them is now recalled, what happens next? And so let's take you into what's going on. The CDC and the FDA are in fact investigating 15 cases in 12 states of infant botulism, one of which happens to be here in New Jersey. We don't know the age of the children that are affected, but we do know the age range. Some as young as 16 days old, some as old as 5 months. But in the grand scheme of things, these babies and their immune systems and their guts are so immature. That is why this is affecting them so hard. And so what we understand is that babies started getting sick, and they were able to somehow tie it to this By Heart formula, New York-based company, offices, I believe, down in Soho, and it's sold nationwide. It's sold at places like Target. I'm outside of a Target here in New Jersey. They still have it on the shelves. It is locked up, but it's still available for purchase. I've called a number of Whole Foods. They have pulled it, but they only pulled it today. This has been going on since November the 8th. And so what is happening, my understanding from talking to doctors, the sound that you just played also touched upon this, when you have an outbreak of infant botulism, the toxin gets into the baby's gut, and it takes time for these spores to fester. So it's not like a stomach bug where you're exposed to something and a day later you're sick. This is roughly a 2-week incubation period for a lot of these babies. And once you start to see that your baby is sick, you need to get medical attention for them ASAP. And when we mean ASAP, it's pretty clear what is happening to them. You have a lethargic baby, their eyes start to droop. They have like a weak cry. Sometimes you notice labored breathing or retractions in their breathing. And that's when you need to seek medical attention. And if you are, what the company is saying, they have done a voluntary recall of all product. There is multiple investigations happening on multiple fronts in multiple states. Apparently, to this point, as of 8:03 on the 11th of November, no unopened case of By Heart at this point has tested positive for infant botulism or the toxin, the bacteria. However, opened cans have. And so that is a discrepancy that all of these different investigating agencies are trying to get to the bottom of. But again, if you think about the fact that there's so much that goes into what you feed your kid for so many moms, there's so much anxiety and guilt that they're giving formula, even though everybody says fed is best. The baby needs nutrition, get the baby nutrition, but you choose something. And now all of a sudden, some babies, 15 at this point in 12 states, are getting sick. It brings up a lot of fear and concern, not to mention the very real reality that these babies are hospitalized. Arthur.
Hey, Teresa, did you know this By Heart brand before today? And I'm assuming it's pretty popular. The company, it says, sells about 200,000 cans of infant formula a month online. And you mentioned Target and Whole Foods, but also Walmart is on here. Albertsons is on here as well. Did you know this brand before? Is it fair to say it's a popular one?
I did. It is quite a popular one. A lot of celebrities have joined on to it. You see their ads all over social media. There have been a bunch of formula companies that have come up in the wake of the formula shortage that we had during the pandemic. And this is one of them. And now the thing that this company says that they do better than anybody, and I'm not here to judge whether or not they do it, but the thing that they claim is that this formula is the one that most closely mimics breast milk. That's the thing here. With most formula, parents, because of the guilt factor associated with giving your kids something other than breast milk, so many of these formula companies are trying to get a product that is as close, not only in taste, in sweetness, but nutritionally dense as breast milk. And so they say they don't use skim milk, they use whole milk, they don't use high fructose corn syrup. They even add to their mixture some of the same components that are only found in breast milk. So that's one of the reasons why so many parents have kind of latched onto this. I'm a part of a number of different moms groups, not only ones that are local, but also national and globally. And parents are posting, like, what do I give my kid now? This was the only thing that helped their reflux, their silent reflux. My baby has this gut issue, that gut issue. This was the only thing that worked. What do I do? And so now the hunt is on for a lot of these families, even if they weren't impacted because the can that they have might be safe, to find something else because now it's not going to be made available.
Well, I mean, I hope there are a lot of brands out there for people to sort of defect over to. And you listed most of the symptoms that I had seen in here, but constipation, weak muscle tone, and difficulty swallowing on top of the things that you mentioned, breathing problems, drooping eyelid, poor feeding. I guess the concern too is how many cases are going undiagnosed at a time like this, and also in particular during a government shutdown. But those are all my questions for you, Teresa. Anything else I should be asking you?
Just the main thing, and again, this is for the parents that are listening. What the doctors are saying, that the symptoms are starting from top to tail. So it's whatever is happening with the infant botulism and the symptoms that are showing, it's starting at the head and it's going down. So the droopy eyelids are the things that are starting first, or the weak crying or the weak laughter is starting second, and then it's moving through. And it's when it gets to their gut and obviously their respiratory system that it's showing them the signs, the significant signs of distress. And that's why you need to get the medical attention. There are remedies to kind of correct this, but as I understand it, and I'm not a doctor, but as I understand it, those need to be given early in the diagnosis or early in the outbreak. So that's why you can't let this slide. If you think something's up, you have to get your kid to a doctor. And they say, scorch any area that has touched this formula with hot water. I mean, wash everything in the dishwasher. You have to kill the bacteria. That's the way to ensure that nobody else gets sick your kid doesn't get sick by this.
Right. Thank you so much. And I guess one of the indicators too is if you had been using this particular baby formula by ByHeart, if not, different set of circumstances perhaps, but still to be careful with. Teresa Priolo, thank you so much. We're going to let you get ready for our 10 o'clock newscast, but in the meantime, be safe out there, okay?
You got it, Arthur. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk about whether or not those working in the real estate industry are seeing the mass defection of New Yorkers that many had said would happen if Zohran Mamdani was elected. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll discuss that. It is 8:10 p.m. on this Tuesday night, November 11th. That's 10/11. And And this is Newsroom Live, coming to you from our newsroom on East 67th Street on Manhattan's Upper East Side. As we said, we're going to talk about the dynamic of whether or not people are actually leaving New York, as was postulated by some, if not many. And in order to get there, we're actually going to first talk about the person that all that debate was over, and that is Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Now, we're going to show you in a bit, we're going to show you what he was up to today. He was up in the Bronx at, I think it was the Douglas Houses, at a food distribution center, and addressing, obviously, the issue of New Yorkers in need not getting their food, feeling food insecurity. There was also a question and answer. Usually we don't have time to play the whole thing for you. That's certainly not on our newscast. But here on Newsroom Live, we do things differently. That's a shot of the mayor-elect handing out food. He then also took pictures with people who asked to take pictures with him. He also sat down and ate, dined, as you see here, with people there having conversations. Worth pointing out, he has been moving very quickly. Yesterday, appointed 2 key people who will have very large roles at City Hall beginning on January 1st. Mamdani's predecessors, when they became elected, waited until December to appoint those positions, but it seems like Zohran Mamdani is moving quickly. But as I said, we're going to play you right now the questions that were asked of him today, sometimes very telling in terms of what is on the mind, certainly of New Yorkers, but as us reporters try to figure out what's on the minds of New Yorkers, let's play some of that. If we can get through all of it, that would be great, but let's play some of that for you right now.
There's been a lot of focus on whether or not you'll keep Jessica Tisch, but have you thought about who you'll appoint as the head of the Department of Community Safety? And also, will you keep the job of Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, which is a new position under Alex?
So we will continue to make all deliberations on an assessment of excellence, not on the question of who was appointed by whom, but rather on the work that they are doing. And I'm excited to start to put together our city government with First Deputy Mayor Dean Fullahan and my Chief of Staff, Elvis Butcher.
But that position of Deputy Mayor for Public Safety was really created to put a check on the police commissioner. Is that something that you don't think you'll need as of now, as you've been thinking, you definitely thought about it?
We continue to have those conversations internally on the question of not only personnel, but also the positions within city government, and as soon as we have an update, I'll tell you.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon. Mark.
Sorry.
So sorry.
Hey, Zohran, Mac Rosenberg at 1010.
Hey, Mac, how's it going?
I want to ask you about your approach to dealing with Washington. You did speak, shall we say, a forceful tone during the campaign about, President Trump. There are some out there who think now that you have been elected, you should maybe go to Washington, offer to meet with the president to talk about what we can maybe find common ground. Is that something that you've thought about doing? Do you think that that's important?
I think it's important to keep the door open to work with anyone and everyone, frankly, who would be interested in serving New Yorkers. For example, if the president would want to work together to end veteran homelessness in this city, that is something that I would welcome and I would appreciate. And I've said time and again over the course of the campaign that if ever there's a conversation to be had that would benefit New Yorkers, that's one I'm willing to have. What will be distinct about our city government approach is that we're not going to have conversations that will come at the expense of those New Yorkers.
Has he called you, or have you had any communication since you were elected?
I haven't yet heard from the White House, but I look forward to making the case for what New Yorkers need to ensure they can afford to live in the most expensive city in the United States of America.
Andrew.
Mr. Mamdani, I realize you're not the mayor yet, but if you go back in history, virtually, I think every mayor since Ed Koch, probably beyond, has marched in the Veterans Parade. Maybe even your man LaGuardia might have marched in the Veterans Parade. Are you making a statement by not marching in it? Will you march in it next year? And what is your litmus test for a parade that you'll march in and one you won't?
I have to be honest with you, I haven't thought all that much about parades. I wanted to ensure that on Veterans Day, I actually got the time to sit down with veterans and hear from them. And some of the stories that I heard from men who have served this country and given everything they could to protect this nation is that they have often been left behind and forgotten by this same nation, by this same city. And I admire the work that has been done to ensure that these veterans have housing, that they are fed, and I also know that there's far more to be done. Because for all the improvements we've seen over the last few years, we also see the number of homeless veterans start to tick up. And that is something that we have to take on, that is something we have to confront, something we have to deliver on.
In terms of parades, though, which ones you'll march in, which ones you won't?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't yet made determinations on parades, but I do know that at the heart of my work has to be delivering for New Yorkers.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm Marissa Rickens-Thomas.
Hi, how are you?
Thank
Yes.
you. So question for you. There has been a
do you have any plans to help with that shortage, or in recruitment, or in terms of any words of comfort or reassurance for officers that are thinking of leaving the force?
Well, I thank officers for the work that they do and putting their lives on the line to protect New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs. And when I started to run for mayor, we were seeing an average of about 200 officers leave the department every month. And by the end of the election, that had increased to about 350. And that retention crisis is linked to the fact that we are asking officers to do far more than we used to. You know, we cannot speak about the change in response times where it used to be closer to 10 minutes and now it's closer to 16 without acknowledging that every year now the NYPD has to respond to 200,000 mental health calls. And so our vision for creating a Department of Community Safety is also one that would be tasked with taking on the mental health crisis, homelessness crisis, and allowing officers to do police work as their responsibility and actually have the quality of life that comes with that as well.
There's been a lot of
You're probably not going to see all of that on any of our on any traditional news outlets today, but judging by the unofficial poll of what's on the front of people's minds, the issue of public safety, how the police department looks going forward, one that in terms of the amount of bandwidth that it took of today's question and answer period for Zohran Mamdani, the incoming mayor of New York City. One of the main questions that's been asked is whether or not the current police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, stays on the job. Mamdani had said in the second debate that he wanted her to stay on. There's some questions about whether or not the offer was made official in recent days, but it seems pretty clear that if she wants that job, that it's hers. Fair to say it that way. And then just to point out, under Mayor Adams, a special position was created in City Hall, and that was the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety. The first individual that was in it was then indicted, unfortunately not an uncommon occurrence for members of the Adams administration. And currently it is served by Kaz Daughtry, who's extremely active. And we've seen out doing things from crackdowns on illegal parking. We saw him up at the partial building collapse up in the Bronx. He's everywhere. So the question there was about whether or not that position needs to stay. If originally it was intended as a check on the power of the commissioner of the NYPD. And you heard the mayor-elect's answer there. He's going to evaluate whether or not, who's staying based on their performance levels. And I think the word he used was excellence. So in terms of summing up that decision, it looks like the offer is there for Commissioner Tisch to stay. And we're pointing out one of the decisions that she made was to put police officers in the subway system, not during their regular shifts, but when crime was highest, and that's in the overnight hours. And I think it was an officer on each train was what she was going for. And since that decision, I mean, people can speculate how much that had to do with it, but crime in the subways have dropped significantly. It's an old policing method that was called cops on dots, which is you look at your map or your schedule, and wherever the crimes are, that's where you assign your police officers. One of the things that she's done that appears to have made a difference in the lives of New Yorkers. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people want to see if she stays. Now, that also goes to how life is going to be in the city, and that is our segue to the bold statements that were made about predicting a mass exodus from New York if and when Mamdani became mayor, or if he won the election. Well, he won the election, so many people are talking about it now. This is over a core issue of taxation. Many of Mamdani's loftier promises on the campaign trail require funding, including if he wants the buses to be free. Somebody's going to have to come up with the money, and one of the ways that he's talked about funding some of those initiatives that he's promised is by raising taxes on the more wealthy of the New Yorkers in this city. So that's the backdrop to many people saying then, well, I'm leaving if he's elected. Our Sharon Crowley, our amazing reporter Sharon Crowley today, was tasked with looking into this. She interviewed a real estate agent both here in New York and in Connecticut, but we are going to play for you part of the one in New York, because if everybody leave, first thing is to leave a place before going to a place. So let's listen in on Sharon Crowley's interview today to see if there is in fact a mass exodus getting ready to happen.
So
are people moving out of New York now that the election's over?
It's a great question, and it's a timely question. And definitely, as a mother of three who's applying two of my children out, they are absolutely not all leaving. I wish they were leaving for the next few months because competition is as tight as ever. They're not leaving. You can't believe all the hype.
So do you think that, we've seen headlines that, places like Connecticut and New Jersey are seeing an uptick in sales? You're feeling like maybe they were already going to leave the city? It had nothing to do with the election?
I think this is a little bit reminiscent to me of, COVID, in the sense people that were going to leave, people that were on the fence may be leaving, but, the numbers don't lie. And the latest numbers in terms of contracts, the contracts are up in New York City over 6% from last year. And interestingly enough, over $5 million contracts are up over 25%. So between my own personal experience and the numbers, I definitely am here to say everyone is not leaving New York City.
The big concern among business leaders in New York City is that if Mamdani got elected, that the wealthiest New Yorkers would, leave the city. And your data is not showing that?
Our data is definitely not telling us that or showing us that. And again, the numbers don't lie. So everyone is not leaving New York City. Listen to the Frank Sinatra song and look at how resilient New York is. Look at the new incredible JP Morgan building. It's, I think it was $3 to $4 billion, which is bringing in more people, young bankers. New York City is going nowhere. And again, I have two kids that are applying to school, and I'd love for people to be leaving for the next few months.
So what do you think borough by borough is seeing the most vacancy rate?
I think borough by borough, I've been looking at the Manhattan numbers, and the Brooklyn numbers are still extremely strong. So right now the numbers are not telling us that people are leaving.
And
come on there. All right. Our Sharon Coley getting the details, getting the skinny, so to speak, from somebody who works in real estate in New York, and her impression based on actual data shows that the real estate market here in New York is strong. She is not seeing a movement or the mass exodus that was predicted. Is it a movie quote, Brian, where they're like, missed by that much on the 1 million New Yorkers leaving New York if Mamdani is elected? At least not yet. Right. Well, we'll see. But for the time being, the experts say no such thing, even though there are New Yorkers who, including, she very humorously put it, her children have to compete to get slots in schools and whatever. She said it would be great, but that's not what's happening right now. Let's take a break and we'll continue on. We'll do a check of the weather, and then we have a special guest tonight, and the shyest person in our newsroom, our amazing sports producer, you know who I'm talking about, the Lou Albanese. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Newsroom Live here at Fox 5. It is 8:26 p.m. We start with a shot of Washington, D.C. in this section because right now members of the U.S. House of Representatives have been called back in order to cast a vote on what's passed the Senate, ending the stalemate of this government shutdown that's lasted almost 2 months. Let's have a listen into what they're saying there right now.
And Democrat district. And what I love is that we are fighting because we don't care whether you're in a Democrat district or Republican district. What we care about is health insurance. And that's what this fight has proven, is that we care about whether or not you're going to be able to afford your health insurance. And you know what? When Representative Roy was talking about being a cancer survivor.
I wish you cared as much about whether or not my people get paid.
Right.
You know, whether or not the people that are working at Tinker Air Force Base, I wish you cared about them getting
but I didn't ask
paid.
you a question, Madam Chairwoman.
Well,
I didn't ask
I
you a
apologize, but
Thank you.
you were talking about my district, so
Yeah.
I thought I would
Well,
express myself about my district and
But
what they
we've
think.
We've heard you talk about that before, and I have 30,000 people in New Mexico who are federal employees, and I've been meeting with them as well. But I wanted to go to the fact that, you know, Representative Roy, who came and left so quickly, he was talking about cancer and how he's a cancer survivor. I'm a cancer survivor. And he was talking about how the Affordable Care Act is so bad. But you know what? I'm a cancer survivor. And so if it wouldn't have been for the Affordable Care Act, I would not be able to get insurance because there was a pre-existing condition. You know what else I am? I am a woman. And because I was a woman and could have had babies, I would have also been a pre-existing condition. And these are the benefits of the Affordable Care Act. And the list goes on and on about why that Affordable Care Act makes sense. But what we also need to make it be is affordable. And we had a hearing. I'm the chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus. Together with members of the Policy and Steering Committee, we had a hearing. Well, Republicans were on vacation. Well, Republicans were gone. If you don't want to call it vacation, let's be honest, you were not here. But we were. And we held a hearing. And one of the most compelling voices, I mean, they were all compelling. We actually had to take out our tissue because we were crying so much. But one of those voices was Brick from Utah. Brick from Utah, who has a condition that he needs infusions. And the only way he can afford those infusions is through because he gets those tax credits. And he said, I want to work. And he went and talked to his representatives, and he tried to meet with his senators. And he did get to talk to Representative Kennedy, and Representative Kennedy's answer to him was, well, just go on disability. That's not an answer. That doesn't save the American government anything at all, because he wants to work. But you know what? We're going to have an amendment from Leader Jeffries and Whip Clark, I see her here, that's going to have a 3-year extension. And I'm supposing you wouldn't support that amendment. Is that right, Mr.
I don't have a vote on that amendment unless you get it out of here, so.
Right. But we could vote, and we will vote later on a 1-year extension, right? Just a 1-year extension, because we've heard the ranking member talk over and over again about that there are Republicans who want that 1-year extension. So we could do that as an amendment. I'll offer that as well. It's 14 of them.
All right, as we continue looking at what's happening in D.C. as representatives rush to get to Washington to take part in a vote that we expect will happen tomorrow. There are a torrent of ideas being exchanged and frustrations over this government shutdown, what it was designed to do, which is to fund the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act, which expire at the end of this year. That has not been done, even though the stalemate agreement, an agreement has been made to end the stalemate. The core issue that brought Democrats to start the government shutdown has not been taken care of, and it's been nearly 2 months since Congress, and particularly those in the House of Representatives, have met. They've essentially, as you heard her say, sort of been on vacation or not called to work. The vote tomorrow, or whenever that vote does take place, will be to reopen the government. But there are also other issues that are pressing for the House of Representatives and for their Speaker, Mike Johnson, in that many want a release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. That has not yet been done yet. And also, many have been calling for the swearing in of Arizona's Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva, who was duly elected. Speaker Johnson has refused to swear her in months ago, right, that she was duly elected. Part of the analysis is that Mike Johnson doesn't want to lose a vote that would release the Epstein files, and therefore is really dragging his feet on swearing in a duly elected member of Congress. As for the impacts here in New York, we've talked about how things have impacted the airports. We've also talked about how many New Yorkers, how millions of New Yorkers are amongst the 42 million Americans, which includes a lot of families who depend on SNAP benefits in order to put food on the table, in order not to go hungry. Now, Fox 5 has been at food pantry after food pantry. This was one that I was at in Harlem, where the representative there told us 300,000 New Yorkers in that district there alone rely on food, on SNAP benefits. And as those were being interrupted, people got in line early in the morning. This was at a community center on Amsterdam Avenue, and this is 146th Street here. They put crates out. Each crate contained, when we looked in them, the very basic necessities, some fruits and vegetables. Those were bags of rice that went in, canned beans, and that was pretty much it that we saw in there. But the line was down the block constantly while they're open. They're open when we got there in the morning and stayed open and to the point where they closed, they had a line outside. That is the reality that many New Yorkers are struggling with. The good news for them is that on Sunday, Governor Kathy Hochul ordered against the orders of the Trump administration to send out SNAP payments, but a lot of New Yorkers either haven't received them yet or also know that this is a very fluid situation, and whatever they're getting now doesn't mean that they will be supported in the days and the weeks to come. Listen in to somebody that our Lisa Evers spoke with. I believe this was in the Bronx today at a food bank there.
It's disgusting how this government has done our people, and I think they all need to be ashamed of themselves. Just like the Democratic Party, the Republican, but whatever party you want to call it, because I call this the human race party. And when it comes to the human race, there is no excuse for what they're doing to these people.
And what kinds of things, like how are you seeing the need manifested? Explain it for us, for people who don't know.
Listen, yesterday we had 200 and something people here. Carmen took care of them by herself. Today, 120, right? We got people actually not paying rent because they need to pay food. What kind of stuff is that? This is New York City. We built this country, all right? These elected officials, I don't know what's going on, but they got to get it together, okay? Because when you start taking people's food, you want people to starve. And we're not only talking about the senior citizens, we're talking about children, okay? We're talking about people that live in shelters that depend on that little SNAP in order to eat. It's bad enough they don't have an apartment and living in a shelter, living in squalor. Now you want them to starve. And I get tired of seeing the same thing over and over and over. For COVID, the same thing. I had to go up and beyond. I just came back. I just got back last night after the delays in the port authorities for all this bull that's happening, right? And I still got up this morning because it was necessary.
Yeah, that was a healthy sampling of the conversation our Lisa Evers had at a food bank in the Bronx today. Obviously, not a happy situation for anyone, and we would continue to point out Congress continued to get paid. Their insurance, health insurance, was uninterrupted, and they're not amongst the people that we saw in line in any of the food banks. We're going to take a short break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk to our amazing sports producer, Lou Albanese, talking about not just what's happening in sports, but some of the nuances. A lot of stuff happening with the New York Giants, and there's a new direction that could go in, and certainly it feels like New Yorkers could use a little something to cheer for. And then we're also going to talk about our surprise topic, which is there is a retail giant that might have a location very near you that you go to, who's giving orders to their employees to do something differently. And we'll talk about it when it's fresh, when Lou gets here. Let's take a break. Welcome back to Newsroom Live here at Fox 5. Make camo your cause is what we've been telling you repeatedly. I hope not too often. It's for a great cause. Right. Honor U.S. Vets is the hashtag as we try to tackle the unbelievable issue, or the unfair issue of homelessness amongst veterans. There's the QR code right there in the middle of the bottom of your screen where you can learn more about this cause. If you can help, that's great, but you could just learn more and be aware. Maybe increases our appreciation for veterans, an appreciation that they certainly deserve. And as I stand here with Lou Albanese, I would say an appreciation that extends.
No vet should ever be homeless. So anything you can do, please do, because the veterans, we owe them. Everyone out there owes the vets. Let's take care of them.
So you saw a lot of this stuff on air today.
Very nice. Yeah,
you know,
and it's a great cause. It's a great cause.
If our assistant news director Becky Cook liked you, I think you would have had one too.
I know. Nobody likes me, so that's okay. But it's a great cause, and it's important, and it's important that we recognize the vets, not just on Veterans Day, on every day. Every day is Veterans Day.
Right, and we were telling people too that they could hashtag. They could wear camo today. You don't have to buy anything. If you have any camo around, or you can borrow some from a friend, you can wear that.
Just take care of those who took care of us.
Right. And
that's the most important thing.
Exactly. And you could post any of your camo pictures on socials with the hashtag of honor U.S. Vets. So many different ways to have an impact.
Always. Very important. Now, speaking of veterans, a whole bunch of veterans in Giant Stadium are now a little concerned because their head coach just got fired yesterday. And that was a big move. Now, the fans care about Brian Daboll? No, he's done. He's out. We don't care about Brian Daboll anymore. What's the only thing Giant fans are worried about? What is it? Who's next? Who's next? That's it. Brian's done. He failed. Move on. Let's get somebody new.
What kind of, on the scale of failure, how bad is his failure? Yeah, on a scale 1 to 10.
I would say an 8. And I'll tell you why I say that. And people are giving him a lot of credit right now about his development of Jackson Dart. First of all, Jackson Dart's played a couple of games. Looks like he's going to be a good quarterback. One of the things he didn't do, and this is the number one.
Does it rhyme with slide?
Well, the slide is part of it, but take care of the quarterback. Protect the quarterback. What do we always say about the offensive line? Protect the quarterback. Great line out of old movie, if you remember. It was the Mean Machine with Burt Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
What was the name of that movie? You remember? Longest Yard. And Burt Reynolds was playing quarterback, and he turned to they're all felons and everything because they were in jail. Remember, guys, protect the quarterback, which is me. And he did not protect him. He let Jackson Dart run all over the field. Everyone knew it was coming, and Sunday it came, a concussion. And I'm telling you, little things like that are noticed, and I think that, not just the collapse on Sunday, but the fact that he allowed Jackson Dart to continue to run and continue to expose himself, and now he's hurt, I think that was the final straw.
Because some people were saying that perhaps Dable had
I gotta tell you exactly what it was.
motivation to let Dart run like that to save his job.
The motivation was let him run, let him score, no offense. He wins, he might save his job. I believe that. My opinion.
And you're amongst those.
And I think there's a few out there that feel the same way. And I was always concerned about that because I thought he was coaching that way.
Right.
And that was
it's
the problem.
not to say it was a deliberate thought, right?
No, it's the fact that
but it wasn't a priority
to
to protect
The
Dart.
perfect example was the game against the Eagles. He went into the tent. He was being tested for a concussion, and Dable went into the tent.
Which is
now,
everybody knows that's a no-no?
Why? Of course. That's well known. That's why he got fined. Why are you going in the tent other than to say, hey, can you play? We got to win this game. There's no other reason to go in there.
And that's not the time to ask, right?
Of course
The doctors
not.
are just trying to find
Of
out if this
course
guy's
not.
health is intact.
And that's the problem. So let's get off the Dable. He's gone. Let's talk about some guys. I'll give you 4 names.
Are you overall, when you talk about these 4, are you optimistic? Are these good names?
They're good names.
Okay.
Whether or not they become the coach, who knows? All right.
Okay.
The first guy is by the name Lane Kifflin. Okay. Lane Kifflin is the head coach at the University of Mississippi, and guess who was his quarterback a year ago?
Dart.
Jackson Dart. This guy, known as a great college, not just coach, but offensive coordinator. He's considered an offensive mind. A lot of people felt that his coaching last year catapulted Dart to a first-round draft pick because Dart was not one of those guys that were talked about like Arch Manning has been for the last decade. They have been talking about since birth, exactly. So Archman's been talking about birth, and this guy's developed. Now, he had one little, I think it was like a 1 season with the Raiders. It was horrible. He was young. I don't know if he would leave college. There's probably more money in college than there is in pros right now in terms of coaching, but he'd be a good pickup because of his relationship with Dart. And if you brought him here, I think that'll help Dart's development, and that is the #1 priority for the Giants, develop Jackson Dart and get the weapons around him. So he's one. Now, another name that comes up is Cliff Kingsbury, all right? And he right now is the offensive coordinator down in Washington. Kingsbury used to coach, as you see the little bird there on his shoulder. He used to coach the Cardinals.
Okay.
He had a really good stretch. He was 7-0 a couple of years ago. He was 7-0, and then the floor fell out. They collapsed. He had problems with his quarterback, Kyler Murray. The team ended up going to a complete free fall, and they eventually fired him. It was a battle between him and the quarterback. So he becomes offensive coordinator for the Commanders last year. Jaden Daniels, the rookie, has the greatest rookie season for a quarterback. Go to the NFC Championship game, and it's because of him.
All right, but they're not doing so great this year.
And that's the one problem with him, and you have to worry about his offense. And the offense he plays will not exactly be protecting the quarterback. It's a spread offense, a lot of movement, and a lot of people feel that offense is the reason why Daniels, who's been hurt twice this year, once with the elbow, once with the knee, and so you got to worry about that. There is concern, but his offense is perfect for a guy like Dart. That would be perfect. So he'd be a guy to look for. There's a chance that may happen. Now there's 2 veterans that are being talked about. One is John Gruden. Everyone knows John Gruden. His days with the Raiders, won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. You know, look at the eyes. I always loved Chucky. You know, that's Chucky, the crazy, right? That's what they call him. That's his nickname. Yeah,
okay.
That's his nickname.
Not a compliment, but okay.
Well, to him it was. He loved that compliment. He loved being called Chucky. But the thing with him is, the problem was a few years ago, out of the blue, when he was still coaching with the Raiders, he had some little vile emails. The NFL wasn't too happy. So I doubt very highly that the Giants would bring him in, being the Maras are not exactly going to be forgiving that. But I'll tell you, he had Jackson Dart at his football. He holds a football camp with a lot of the college potential draft pick quarterbacks. Had him, loved him. Another guy who would do well. A lot of people talking about him, but I'm guessing there's no way there's no way the Giants touch him. But I mention his name because he's a big name that's been tossed around.
And how much time has gone by in that time has Gruden managed to address that and indicate that he knows that
first of all, there's a lawsuit going on. He's been suing, and a lot of things going on. I don't see it happening, and I'm not sure if the game hasn't passed him by. Remember, he had a 10-year contract. I think he's still getting paid by the Raiders. 10-year contract. So I would say
that's what you're on here at Fox 5.
No, I'm on a 10-minute contract, and I'm down to 8 minutes and 62 seconds. Now, what I'm saying to you is very simply, a lot of people saying his name is the reason I brought it up. No, I don't think John Gruden has a shot. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the outside think big. Talked about on the radio. People have said it. I'll give Evan Roberts. He brought it up a couple of months ago. Mike Tomlin of the Steelers. This is
he almost up?
Well, here's the deal. The feeling is that the last few years, because the Steelers have struggled, this year they're in first place, but there's a lot of people think, as you see, he's shaking hands with John Harbaugh, head coach of the Ravens. Chances are John's saying, I'm about to go past you in the standings. Give me 2 more weeks, and we'll be in first. Mike, nice knowing you, but we're about to kick your butt.
Hey, but he's got Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he's got Aaron Rodgers, which means, woo, want to talk about a nosedive. There's a chance the Steelers have been talking about moving on. If you're the Giants, you touch base. The Rooneys and the Maras, they are the two, the patriarchs of football, the big family-owned football teams. Make a deal. There's even, one of the Maras is married to one of the Rooneys. That is how close the family is.
Okay, that's very close.
The thing is, one of the granddaughters, if they call and say you want to think big, offer them a first-round pick. Offer them a first and a third. Say to the Steelers, look, we know what's going on. We need to get the Giants back. The problem with John Mara, and this is the problem with John Mara, is that they keep bringing in these guys who have no coaching experience. They're Pat Shermer, Joe Judge. Come on, Ben McAdoo. Who are these guys? These are nobodies.
So they need for experience.
The last time they had an experienced named coach, his name was Tom Coughlin. How did that work out? 2 Super Bowl wins.
Right.
Really good. 2 Super. Thank you. As my friend here, the Giant fan, said, really good, folks.
Yeah.
And who hired him?
2 more than what we've had recently.
Who hired him? John's father, Wellington. Mm-hmm. It's time for him to take a page out of his dad's book. Go big. Go big. Go for Mike Tomlin. Go for a big name. Offer what it takes. It's worth it. The Giants need a veteran, big name coach. As for Belichick, I think he would have been like one of the leading candidates. But now him and his girlfriend and the weirdness of Belichick with the 24-year-old running around, I don't think that's going to fly in Giant land. So look.
So then the Mississippi coach too is not on the list
of not the
go
veteran
with the experience.
But if you're not going to go with that, because I'm ending with the big one, Tomlin. But I would say if you're not going to go that route, then I would go to the Mississippi coach if you can, because he does have experience in college. He's coaching, head coaching, and has experience with Dart. But me, I would go with Mike Tomlin, if possible, and I go all in. Go all in, offer the draft picks, go all in and
get him out of Pittsburgh now.
Right. Make that deal. And just make the deal. I think Tomlin would be a guy that will put the Giants into another level because of his ability to win. He's proven he's a winner, and the team needs a grown-up in the locker room, which is what it's lacked.
Do the Giants have draft picks to give up at this
Sure.
point?
At this point, you give up draft picks. You have a lot of young teams. You got Neighbors. You have Scatterbo. You have Dar. You have young players. They have a good defensive line. They have players. Give up the draft picks. Do it. Give them a first if you have to. It's time to think big, and that's what the Giants should be doing.
Well, okay, so what happens timing-wise now? If it's Tomlin, it happens sooner, right?
Well,
others, they can wait until the
offseason? What will probably happen with Tomlin, if there's a deal in place, if you're calling and you're talking about a trade. You can't make the trade today. But you could see if there's interest in Pittsburgh. Just mention it, one of those behind-the-scene type things you can't make it public. And then I would say it wouldn't happen until after the season, but you can work on, hey, are you interested? Is there you put the feelers out, and then if there is interest in the Steelers and they talk about things, once the season is over and the Steelers season's over, then obviously the Giants season's already over, but once the Steelers season's over, with a week or two, the trade can go through. And that's what they should be doing. I don't think the Giants are doing that, but that's what they should be doing. And if it does happen, it would be a fantastic coup for the Giants. It would put them, it would be the equivalent of when the Jets made the trade. People forget it was a trade to get Bill Parcells from the Patriots. They traded draft picks to get Bill Parcells. The Patriots traded draft picks to the Jets to get Bill Belichick. How do those two deals work out?
That worked out great.
I think it worked out pretty well, right?
Well, no.
Sometimes it's worth trading for a coach.
Maybe some people feel Belichick going to Patriots. New York fans will say that was terrible.
Well, man, worked
that
out.
was
But
a terrible deal. Worked out for the wrong team.
I think it worked out for Robert Kraft. So you know what? Go big. Big wins. And coaching is the most important thing in the NFL. It's probably the one sport that when you talk about coaching, NFL, NBA, baseball, hockey, I don't know where hockey fits. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But NFL, football, coaching is king. And there's a reason why certain guys, it's funny how certain guys, winning follows certain guys. Isn't it amazing? Take the guy out in the Chargers, Harbaugh. All right? Jim Harbaugh goes to San Francisco, becomes a winning coach, goes to the Super Bowl. Goes up to Michigan, wins a national championship. Hey, let's take him to the Chargers. And then now we're a Super Bowl contender. It's funny how this winning always seems to follow certain people.
Funny and
it's
not,
amazing.
though. Funny and
it's
not,
amazing,
though.
isn't it? It's such a craziness. Where does that come from?
All right. Well, let's take we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about whether or not the GM at the Giants are if he's part of this discussion.
Giants GM winning? That's two.
That's
two different things.
There's a Jets on a streak, and you're working on maybe we'll be three in a row.
We have a special coming up. Look at that. Thank God they're starting to win.
All right. Let's take a 2-minute break here. Just so you know, it's not just Lou and I and Brian Kay working here in the newsroom. That's our Catherine Barmer, amazing 10 p.m. producer there. And as we're swinging around, Deja's there. And
hope we didn't make you nervous and sick on that move.
That's
oh, my
right.
God. Ooh, I almost passed out on that move.
All right, a couple more sports questions. One is the GM of the Giants. Many have said, well, he's the one who hired Daboll, a decision which you look at.
They came as a duo from Buffalo.
How's he say?
I don't know. You know, there is some talk. There is some talk. This is, I don't want to say conspiracy theory, but I say there is a little bit of a theory that people threw out today. John Mara, as we all know, he's not well. I mean, he's still he's working through, but he has cancer. So he is going through treatments. And the feeling was if you blew out Shane and Daboll, it was going to be a very difficult situation, a big-time job to replace that whole coaching search and everything, and he may not be up to it. Don't know if it's true, but it is a theory that people say. And it would make sense because the man does have, he is battling cancer.
Okay.
So maybe they want someone to go take a look, this and that. But I would say that his lifeline is very short because this is...
That's what we call a short leash, huh?
And there was a lot of talk even before this took place, early in the season, that they were going to... Everyone thought it was a package deal. But then people started saying, well, maybe we'll keep one and not the other. So I've heard this. I heard this about, I would say 5, 6, 7 months ago, 7 weeks ago. that they were talking about that way. And maybe that's the reason, because we don't know how long that John Mara's known about his sickness and things like that.
All right, well, luckily New York is seeing some winning football.
Yeah, for 2 games.
Unfortunately, it's
for
2 games that followed
we'll take
like
it.
8 losses
We'll
or
take
something.
It. Yeah, the same record. The Jets have won 2 straight, and this Thursday night they're going to New England. And New England, amazingly enough, and we talk about coaching changes. New England has been bad since Belichick left, since Brady left. They bring up an old veteran from the linebacker, played for the Patriots. His name Mike Rabel, who's a head coach in Tennessee, an excellent head coach. And lo and behold, how amazing. We bring in a guy who's from a winning organization, who was let go in Tennessee. I'm sure how's that working out for them. And they're winning. That's what I mean by having a guy like a Tomlin. Think big. So you need experience. New York is not the place to learn on the job. Learn somewhere else, come here and elevate yourself. Everybody forgets one thing. Belichick. Oh, Belichick, the greatest coach. He was the coach of the Cleveland Browns in the early 90s, and he was a bomb. He was a bust. Sometimes you need to develop first. You want him the second time sometimes. You don't want them the first time. Sometimes
let somebody else pay for that. The special, you're usually off today.
That's right. We're putting together. We got a pregame show. We're airing Thursday night. Jets Patriots. We're airing it on Fox 5.
What time?
Well, the game is at 8. From 7:30 to 8. Tina Savasio. I'm producing it. We're doing a pregame show. She went one-on-one with Jermaine Johnson, their star defensive end, who was very candid about how the team and the trades and how his feelings are. And also a kid by the name of Isaiah Williams. If you don't know who he is, if you were watching, you saw his kid return a punt for a touchdown. Great speed, young wide receiver, has a great future. And I'm telling you, and we'll hear from Aaron Glenn, who has maybe turned this thing around. We'll hear from Justin Fields. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Tunnels to Tower and how the Jets came back and how a vet on this Veterans Day a couple of days ago got the dream of his life. And we're going to show you how that happened. All on
You could do that in 30 minutes?
It's a lot less than 30 minutes. But we're going to do it, and we're going to provide it to you, and it's worth watching.
All right, our last subject is one that we had sort of alluded to.
Yeah, I heard about
Retail
this.
giant, is it Target? Target is telling their employees there's a code of conduct when you show up at their store. They want their employees to interact with customers a certain way. If they're within 10 feet, they're going to wave and start conversations. I don't know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I see people like friendly people, but in New Yorkers, sometimes we just want to be left alone to do our thing, right?
I think it's actually a great idea. I think people like feeling more comfortable. If you walk into a store and they smile and they treat you well and you feel like you're okay, I'll come back. A lot of times you go into these stores and you can feel that the workers hate what they're doing. So why am I going to shop in a place where everybody hates what they're doing? So I don't have a problem. Now me, on the other hand, I don't smile well, so I can't do that, because you see, that smile is hard for me. But I think it's a great idea.
Whether or not it feels genuine, I think is a question that some people have, right? Trader Joe's, I think their employees are told to interact a little bit.
You'll be surprised. Everyone knows everybody's phony. But okay.
Everybody knows everybody's phony.
The whole world's phony.
We got a new
So can I at least be phony to me because I feel like I'm important? If I'm not even good enough for you to be phony to, why am I shopping in your store? Fake it. Faking is good. That's how I do that. I don't need it to be real.
I guess we should all aspire to be to a level where people
everybody
can feel
wants to
like
be,
they can be phony with us.
Right. If I'm not worthy of phoniness, then I'm really below the 8 ball. At least if you're phony to me, I think, well, at least I'm worth something. That's how I view it.
All right. Well, we'll have to cut it for now.
Yeah.
Lute, thanks so much.
I would give you a phony smile, but I'm not going to do that to.
Thanks for watching Fox 5's Newsroom Live. We're now joining Live Now's non-stop stream of live and breaking news.
Distrust about, just letting this be handling that the oversight committee is doing. And he thinks that because it's been